Perennials are interesting, aren't they? Because actually they're us.
I guess being a perennial myself, living and breathing it every day, it's kind of hard to define sometimes as to what me versus maybe my parents or the previous generation may be.
The perennial generation are the first digital first generation of parenting, and they're super important because this year is actually the flip year when there are going to be more millennial mums than there are Gen Z mums.
The interesting thing about the way that millennials parent versus the preceding generation is that they reject the notion of helicopter parenting. Helicopter parenting has now evolved into what we call treasure hunt parenting. So families it's much more collaborative. They're on a journey together, seeking opportunities, seeking memories to store in their photos and content.
The perennial will very much be defined by their own lifestyle choices, and that will be part of who they are as a parent, but they won't define themselves as mum or dad first a lot of the time.
They're very, very busy. So not only do they have their own sort of busy lives, but their kids also have busy lives. So you have very little time together when you're actually with your kids, when they're not doing an activity. So as a brand, it's about giving parents time back, giving them opportunities to spend time with their children.
Beforehand, technology for most previous generations was seen as the thing that isolated their parents from them, that it was something that the kids got, but oh no, as a parent, I don't understand. But for the first time, we've got a generation of parents who, crucially, will be the only generation to have known what it was like before and after the internet, where actually technology becomes an enabler for the two different generations to connect with one another.
I think it's really important for brands moving forwards to re-evaluate what we define as a family experience.
In terms of 2 to 3 tips for talking to perennial parents, I would suggest don't assume that you're talking to mum. I think traditionally that's something that brands will naturally do, whereas in reality, dad is very much part of a decision-making process for a lot of parenting decisions now as well.
How do you give them time back? How do you help them in their lives rather than be an obstacle in their lives, rather than getting in the way of their lives? And then I think if you're sort of looking at yourselves as a utility to enable better lives, that's a great starting point.
I think when engaging with millennial parents, it's more about being genuine and authentic when it comes to brand communication.
I think that we're going to continue to see the trend of long-form content be something that is changing the way in which consumers engage. There are so many more moments now, whether that's the daily commute, in the car or on public transport, where things like podcasting and audiobooks become a feature of the daily media consumption of parents that we maybe have discounted in the past, that actually brands can have a presence there, as well as also more emerging technologies which actually help you make the product more real and in a more immersive way.
I fully believe, and the reason I'm here is to get brands to come in and be part of the village and actually do rather than just say.